All right, good evening, everybody. This evening at the Free Peoples of Russia House, we're honored to welcome Nurul Rakhimbek. Mr. Rakhimbek is a leading geopolitical analyst and sanctions evasion expert with more than two decades of experience across Eurasia. He is the founder and president of the Washington, D.C. based Center for Global Civic and Political Strategies, a policy institution focused on geopolitical risk, sanctions enforcement vulnerabilities, energy security, and regional stability. Tonight, we'll have the opportunity to hear directly from Mr. Rakhimbek as he presents findings from his latest sanctions evasion report. His research traces the evolving network of transit sites, shadow financial channels, and covert procurement chains that continue to sustain Russia's war economy, from Central Asia to the Caucasus and Turkey to China. This work speaks directly to the broader question of whether the West sanctions architecture is keeping pace with Moscow's ability to circumvent it. Let's give him a nice round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone, and it's my pleasure to speak here. And I will thank, first of all, the hosts of this event for giving us a chance to present our findings. Can you please put this next slide? So our organizational background, we work on research in sanctions and geopolitics. We have a network of like in the regions as well as in Europe with people providing us information. We use hybrid methodology, open source intelligence, international trade data, which you will learn today that we analyzed and came out to some interesting conclusions, and field intelligence, which I'm talking about. There are quite a few colleagues of ours here. I will introduce Chimen. She's a member of our team. She's going to help us with flipping the slides. She contributed a lot also to put together this report. And Wally Khan, he's from New York. He's a scientist. He also helped us to get together information for the report. We are not only limited with presenting findings, but we're also presenting these findings to make some actions happen. So we make submissions to enforcement agencies, both here in Europe, on our findings, hoping that some actions will take place. But that's our role. We also provide regional group consultations on compliance. We had a group visiting from Ukraine, from Ministry of Defense last year. This year, we've been contacted by Kyrgyz business circles also, who wanted to learn how to basically not to get sanctioned, so how to follow the compliance procedure. So, and we are heading there by providing online compliant trainings, and I'm working on developing a manual this year. Okay, so we publish reports every year since 2022. We publish a report covering past year. Definitely, we follow and face some challenges to get the data. That is why we use combination of factors. But generally, we come to a certain conclusions and key findings at the end by combining those various sources. So here are some findings that we actually can say about 2025 and a little bit beginning of 2026 already. So first of all, procurement networks and third country diversion. That's been noticed since the war began. Like enormous surge into supply of the dual purpose goods. Redirected it through the third countries. Because if one entity is sanctioned, then Russia, which is orchestrating this procurement, is trying to find some other channels. And it can be layers of companies, multiple, and I will not have enough time here to name all those companies that are established. They can be just one day old, just to run some operations. Russian defense procurement demand. Definitely, Russian defense is something that drives the most part, the biggest part of the procurement demand in economy, which is draining Russian economy by large quantities. Like Russian GDP is, I mean, if it was like maybe around 4% improving last year, it's 1.5%. And that's also due to sanctions. So if we say that are the sanctions effective, and we will talk about it later, that the long-term effect is obvious. Then we look at the, can you go back? Uh, corporate compliance gaps and gray market supply chains. Here we also found that companies and countries that help Russia evade sanctions actually have access to the Western markets. They change their regions, but they still procure stuff and send it back to Russia through diverting procurement, supply chain. Biggest issue that we came across was maritime sanctions evasion. You all heard about shadow fleet, and we have a lot of issues with oil shipped across in various directions, like changing flags under different flags without insurance, swapping the oil right in the sea. So that's one of the biggest findings, which we'll look at later. The biggest influence also was done by impact of Iranian networks, who gave intelligence to Russia in terms of drones technology, and also rediverted some of the procurement supply chains. And financial workarounds, it is why a lot of countries who help Russia get sanctioned for. It's processing of payments. And here we get actually into crypto. That's the biggest area where Russia is now trying to hide all the payments, process all the payments for the dual purpose goods they supply. Next slide, please. Some of the cases that we came across and which are public right now, it's Sergei Zarovnikov, who is like, pleaded guilty for supplying 1.5 million in firearms and ammunition to Russia, based on his Bishkek established, like I said, shell company. Vladimir Molenka, in August 2025, was sentenced for acquiring dual-use electronics and ammunition for Russian military and intelligence customers. The biggest case, I would say, was Oleg Patsula, was recently also sentenced to 70-month prison, exporting aviation parts and sensitive technologies to Russia. And that doesn't only limit us to the United States. We can see that there is Europe. We see German export networks, 5 individuals arrested for operating from front companies in euros, 30 million in euros. Then we go into Hong Kong and China trade channels. So investigation also goes and reveal intermediaries routing Western microelectronics, which were recovered from their drones. And you heard that probably in the news that Ukraine hit some of the drones, and when they recover it, they find like Texas Instruments, for example, microchips. So that is what we're talking about here. Norwegian dual-purpose equipment inquiry investigation is underway. It's the biggest thing also, undersea surveillance equipment. So when we talk about supplying Russia with goods, it's not only like dual-purpose goods or something that they could use for defense purposes. We're also talking about some sort of technologies. So that's one of the things. Now we got into maritime, and I will not spend all the time going through all the cases, but it's quite big, and China is biggest on the list. So you can see as China is the largest buyer, last year it was like 38% of Russian fuel export, recorded by June 2025. Hence, they are added onto the list of sanctioned like ships, vessels. And you can see that APAC ownership, flag switching, things that I've been mentioning before, automatic identification system, tracking shutdowns, because they just switch off and it's hard to track the ship where it's actually located. But then we heard, and it's going on right now, that the ships are being arrested, if not hit by drones. That's a lot happening right now. We look at the financial and crypto sanctions evasion. Remarkable cases that we came across, it's the traditional payments. Like, for example, in UK, there was like Bank of Scotland processed 24 payments, for example, and they were fined by Office of Financial Sanctions Implementation. The biggest crypto cases, we can mention like Garantex, Evita scheme. It's using shell companies and actually using crypto to exchange money and to avoid Western payment system, SWIFT payments. So a few cases are mentioned here. Next slide, please. So when we talk about crypto, this is a nice and beautiful scheme prepared by China Analysis, where you can see the body that is sanctioning, like Office for Foreign Assets Control, and we want to see it's Russian related. So when you see Garantex and Greenex, it's the name of the currency, cryptocurrency used to convert rubles to enable those payments, to pay for the shipment of those goods. Next slide, please. There are also, not all cases are criminal. There are some administrative penalties levied. And I just mentioned those which we have in the United States. It's Andritz Incorporated, Alpha and Omega Semiconductor, Haas Automation. Are those cases in US? When it comes to UK, they identified a number of jurisdictions and countries are listed here, which are actually prone to making those sanction evasions. Yeah. So next slide, please. Let's briefly look at also international sanction policy. What happened over the last year? We've been following this since 2022, and European package has already reached like its 19th package implemented last year, which is now addressing actually the facilitators, the enablers who are helping Russia to evade sanctions. So we have Treasury imposing oil sanctions, which is currently lifted for unknown period of time, but temporarily lifted due to the situation and crisis in the Middle East. We have sanctions related to like dual use procurement involving Turkey, China, Central Asia. And in a second, I will show you actually what mechanisms are used. EU and UK. Next slide, please. So Russia is not also sitting quietly and waiting. They are also approaching this like with multi-layered ecosystem. So they are looking at the corporate obfuscation, logistics manipulation. These are their strategies how to approach the situation of imposing sanctions. Corporate obfuscation actually means changing names of their companies, changing the ownership, changing hands of the companies, changing their registration places. I can give you a lot of examples, like in Kazakhstan, for example. A lot of Russian businesses moved to Kazakhstan to start investing into the metals, into the rare earth minerals, gold, which are required actually for the military, for the defense industry. One of the biggest examples is Nessis Brothers with Polymetal. They had a company in Russia called Polymetal International. Then they sort of left the board in Russia and reconvened in Kazakhstan. and establish like a polymetal structure in Kazakhstan. So it's one of the ways to evade sanctions. Next slide, please. So like I said, these are the main evasion schemes. Countries free export, the export comes to one country and then redirected to another so that we cannot actually trace the origin. Dual purpose goods. It's the biggest thing. It's also called CHPL, Common High Priority List Goods, which means actually the goods that are used for the dual purposes. It can be by nature used for civilian purposes, but also for military. So they are dual purpose. Natural resources access. Kazakhstan continues to supply Russia with a lot of zinc, copper, a lot of the metals used actually in the military industry. It never stopped. Oil shipments, dark fleets, we talked about it. Financial payments, we did mention, and crypto. Next slide, please. So top suppliers of Russia in 2025 are, since we are monitoring sanctions evasion, we've originally seen a lot of things happening through Europe, like earlier on. But nowadays, the sort of triangle is shifting towards eastwards. It comes first to China and Hong Kong, and then distributed to the Middle East, if not sent through Central Asian countries. And here's the list of the routes. Direct supplies from India, Turkey is used also in Chinese shell companies. To a certain extent, Europe and allies, but much less than it was before. And like I said, Western access with all these micro schemes, microchips, which is found and recovered from the shot down, brought down drones. Next slide, please. So what are the common high priority lists? So they identify technologies with high strategic and military value and divide it into tiers, 1 to 4, according to their sensitivity. So one, it's like more circuits, microchips that are used for missiles. And the less sensitive it is, it's 4, it's other components or machines used to produce something that is used for military, for defense purposes in Russia. Next slide, please. So, for example, core microelectronics, items like integrated circuits, processors, amplifiers, and memory devices. Their military use is guidance and control computers for missiles and drones, real-time data processing in radar and electronic warfare systems, encryption and secure communications. In Russia, it is used for particularly Oreshnik and Iskander systems, which you can see on the picture. It's one of the biggest Russian missiles. And it's also like recovered and Western-made chips found down in downed Russian munitions. Next slide, please. Tier 2 talks about communication in signal system. Well, we get a little bit technical here. It's like radars, radios. They are all used to communicate with air defense. Like we're talking about S400 and S500 air defense complexes. Tactical battlefield communications and coordination of drone swarms. Tier 3, semiconductor and devices and components. We're talking about like, I mean, like, you definitely know that those elements are used like for radios, for whatnot, domestic appliances. But here, their biggest use is military imaging, sighting, targeting systems, power electronics, and drone avionics. Particularly in Russia, it is used for night vision, infrared optics, Su-35 jets, Ka-52 helicopters. Next, please. So we can go just quickly. The rest is definitely, it's like easier mechanical and optical systems. They are also part of gyroscopic bearings, part of the missiles, semiconductors. It's also supplied to the domestic fabrics in Russia, micron and angstrom. And finally, machines that are used to produce parts of the jets. So it's like a computer CNC lathes. It's the machines that computer controlled, and they're producing parts of jets and used by workings and tier of plants for missile body production. Okay, so the supply chain snapshot for various item lines that we just mentioned. It's going through China, Hong Kong, manufacturing and chip distribution. Turkey is a re-export hub for Western parts. UAE, financial and logistical link. India and Central Asia, secondary transit routes, flows often marked by civilian trade and descriptions. I wanted you to look at this graph, and it shows us the top countries supplying these particular item lines that I just mentioned. We've analyzed uniform trade data, and that's what we see happening there. China is the biggest. Now, you see also some European countries there, but they have all stopped supply of equipment when the war broke out. So like Czechia, for example. So it was high, but it still shows us some data. But definitely China, India, Malaysia, Kazakhstan are the biggest ones, basically biggest helpers of Russia right now. Next slide, please. What is also interesting, what we found out, is that certain types of the spare parts, like machines for reception, processing units, and electrical transformers, appear in almost all shipments in different countries. It's not coincidence. It is something that is ordered and requested by Russia from various sources. So Russia is like asking, you Kazakhstan buy this, you Kyrgyzstan buy this, Tajikistan buy this, and then maybe you'll send part. Oh, there's a lot of attention to Kazakhstan now. Kazakhstan, hold on. Like Kyrgyzstan now, they're orchestrating this whole supply chain at the moment, and we revealed it by going into details, into the figures. So you can see it like different spare parts, and the highest one, actually the one that I mentioned just now, will appear in different countries. Let's quickly look at the countries. This is India. You see 2022, 23, it started skyrocketing in 2024. And we're talking about billions. And it is the same that I mentioned, the processing unit and parts for airplanes. Next, please. So we look at the India like dual use export cases. So there were 275 individuals actually required to report on stuff they supply. Next, please. India is also involved in helping Russia to avoid financial channels. Next. As well as the shadow fleet. So we see that some of the vessels, like for example, Metal Energy Limited, purchased 280 million Russian crude shipments in ship-to-ship transfers. So major China-linked dual-use supply cases, and China was the biggest that I showed you on the graph just now, right? So Chinese suppliers become key providers of industrial machinery, electronics, and drone-related components used in sustaining Russian defense production. And it's not just China. We're talking about Hong Kong here and mainland. Based trading intermediaries facilitated large volumes of sensitive electronic components to Russia, procurement agents. So these are the points that shows us that China is playing a largest role in helping to evade sanctions. Look at the dynamics also. Like I said, it is also the process where when attention is paid to one area, Russia is trying to like use another route. So here we see that in 2023, there was like a surge in supply. And then in 2024, the supply was reduced, but we're talking about same equipment, machines for reception, processing units, electric transformers. Next, China, Kazakhstan. Attention was paid to Kazakhstan lately on cooperation with Central Asia. And see what's happening. Kazakhstan is supplying less directly. Kazakhstan is supplying less, but also the same unit. Next, Tajikistan. Tajikistan still maintains supply in 2024 almost at the same level. Same type of equipment. Machines for reception, processing unit, electric transformers. Next, Uzbekistan. Also maintained at the same level in 2024. Also, machines for reception, processing units, electric transformers. I mean, it's not coincidence, right? I mean, it's a raw data that we use from UN Comtrade. We just processed it and we see the connection. We see definitely the connection. Next, please. Yeah, Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan is the one actually that is skyrocketing this year. I mean, the past year, also with different item lines. I should also probably tell you what are the other graphs mean. This is the curve that shows the sale of goods, and then the different bars actually stand for different item lines that are mentioned right here. And the dynamics of supply different item lines are shown in the third graph. Okay. Also, and probably the biggest, what we revealed in our research is that goods are not flowing only through Central Asia. It is also going through UAE, and the biggest amount. If there we looked at the millions, here unfortunately the quality is not so good, it's blurry, but we're talking about billions here. So a lot of resupply is going actually through UAE, okay? So I just wanted you to look at this picture. It's people are not actually reinventing the wheel, right? We see the old ancient Silk Road. So that's what's actually is happening, basically. China is supplying through the the channels that they have, like closed channels, Central Asia and Middle East. Next, please. And this picture is nowadays. This is what we can see is happening at the border of Russia with Kazakhstan. You see the caravans of just back. You see caravans like at one point there was like 10,000 trucks, and of course they're carrying what? They're carrying the procurement that they've made. There is no way those amounts of procured equipment can be utilized in the countries, small countries like that, right? With a small population. So that's what's happening right now. Next slide, please. So here we just wanted to basically put together two countries to see how does it work. It's China export to Kazakhstan and Kazakhstan export to Russia. Like I said, lately in 2024, attention was given by many Western enforcement agencies to Kazakhstan. A lot of units or entities were sanctioned. So you see how the curve drops actually in 2025. But it doesn't mean that the goods are not resupplied through the third countries. Next slide, please. Same we see with Uzbekistan, right? Quite recently, we had C5+1 summit, right? A lot of Central Asian states came here, and definitely there is influence. There is influence in political decisions that management of those countries take. So we can see its reflection in the trade. Next slide, please. But with those countries that are still on the radar, I would say Tajikistan and, next please, and Kyrgyzstan. You see how their curve is actually going down and up in 25, right? Next please. And finally, UAE, with the curve constantly going up. all this data is, I'm just showing you like an example. It has all figures, it has all proofs. It will appear in the report that we will publish on our website. Because here only it's just for visual comparison of things. Uh, so China financial channels supporting Russian trade. Uh, uh, Biggest Bank of China and ISBC. China is using also cross-border interbank payment, which is trying to create an alternative to process payments, an alternative to SWIFT. Shadow fleet. That also involves like China National Petroleum Corporation, Sinopec, China National Offshore Oil Corporation. They all take part in shadow fleet shipping. Okay, so China is also helping Russia in drone production. US sanctions targeted particular companies, Zemel, Riddle Plus, and a number of other, which were supplying agents and components used in Russia Garpia drone system. And there were a number of other cases, like with Evomax, Hotel, Robotex, the companies that actually getting both technologies and spare parts for assembling drones. Next. Quickly, we'll look also at Hong Kong and other Southeast Asian places. We see the dynamics is also reducing. What's interesting is reducing in the places where the authorities are started implementing policies to follow sanctions. So the situation with Hong Kong is definitely supplying less, but still above what it was in pre-war level. Next. So a number of cases. I'm not going to go into all the details. You can probably later read it in our report, but definitely there are some recorded very big cases with major Hong Kong procurement intermediary, those that helped Russia to evade sanctions. Hong Kong is also involved in helping to process the payments, to clear the payments, to finance supply of sanctioned goods. One of the biggest systems is RMB, renminbi hub, enabling Russian firms to settle trade outside of USD and Euro channels. So yeah, that's one of the biggest. Hong Kong is a hub for processing financial payments. So like I said, Russia is like placing certain, like if they want natural resources from Kazakhstan, they want to get supply of the dual purpose goods through Central Asia, like payments can be processed through Hong Kong. So they're sort of managing their portfolio that way. Taiwan, Hong Kong, maritime exposures is also there. Taiwan appears in the pictures with imports reached about 1.3 billion in 2025, which is also certainly more than it was before the war. Dual purpose export supply chains. There's a number of companies that are also on the list that are sanctioned or are being investigated at the moment. Singapore too. Like I said, since authorities started following those cases, the number of supplies have dropped considerably. Yeah, and those cases are mentioned here. They work with Kalashnikov, Ural Vagonozavod, Kalashnikov centers supplying spare parts that we mentioned before. Singapore role also quite big in fuel, oil, and shadow fleet trade. Malaysia, as you see, it's another example of how countries are actually, when authorities are implementing certain restrictive measures, the supply of dual-purpose goods drops. And the biggest one, like I said, the biggest finding of our research was a lot of goods are channeled through UAE. Dual-purpose use procurement, sanctions evasion cases. There's a lot. I just mentioned a few here. For machine tool parts, you know, for microelectronics, for machines, for transformers, many spare parts that I mentioned before. UAE is also biggest in helping with shadow fleet sanction evasion. In 2025, there were a number of cases of actually sanctioned ships in different waters under different flags. Iran. Iran role is interesting in terms of drone production. They're creating network and transferring technologies. And we all know that they have supplied technology of the Shahed drone production to Russia previously. So like, for example, there are companies, Shahed Aviation Industries, Quds Aviation Industries. Those are the companies in Iran that are sanctioned, that are part of this game. Maritime as well. We know that Russia have learned a lot from how to ship oil, actually, from what Iran was doing previously. In 2023, starting actually in 2022, there were a number of cases where Iran shipment was sanctioned. So here's just drawing in these 4 graphs for Central Asia to show you that Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, the differences, increased supply in Tajikistan and increased supply in Kyrgyzstan. So that's where we stand with Central Asia. Similar graph with showing us actually the type of goods. Coincide with the codes that I mentioned and the countries. So here's to summarize a little bit. Re-export trade structures. Central Asian economies operate in import and re-export hubs, especially for electronics and industrial equipment. Trade after 2022 shows large increases in imports of microelectronics and dual-use goods into Central Asia states, followed by increased exports to Russia. So we found out that there's a lot of weak export controls. It's very hard to deal with the state agencies to get information. So they don't historically implement Western-style export control systems, right? So Russian business networks also play a big role. Geographic and customs integration. Russia shares open trade corridors and customs integration with several Central Asian countries through Eurasian Union. So it's easy, when goods come to Eurasian Union, they disappear. So Kazakhstan to Russia, briefly. Next, please. So Kazakhstan financial sector. In Kazakhstan, there are a number of banks that originally helped Russia to evade sanctions by opening bank accounts for Russian citizens who relocated to Kazakhstan. We talked about like payments through Zolotaya Korona before it was banned. Halyk Bank, Nur Bank is actually, Nur Bank is very interesting. It's connected to the Nursultan Nazarbayev's family. And they are working with QuickPay, still working with the QuickPay Russian payment system, which is alternative also to online payment system, to Western typical models. FinTech Kaspi also was accused of opening accounts for Russians. Freedom Holding was accused of helping Russian citizens to get access to the international IPO. Sanction phases. So when we get to natural resources, we look at the copper industries, which I mentioned in the beginning, right? Zinc, aluminium. So these metals are crucial for ammunition production, electrical wiring in military vehicles, radar, and communication systems. So these are the charts of all the years throughout the war. And you see that the supply has, actually for one particular item, it stopped. This is aluminum, supplying Rusal, and in 2023. But in 2024, it started again. And the rest just continued throughout the war. So Kazakhstan definitely remains a conduit for Russia's metal sector, despite sanctions. There are a lot of changes taking place in the country in terms of redistribution of the assets. All of a sudden, there is a new businessman, like already post Nazarbayev's era. We're talking about Shuhrat Mutalib of Integra company. Is linked definitely to Russian companies like Yuj Ural Zolota and Kazakh companies Kazink and ERG, which are the ones that I mentioned, supplying aluminum, copper, and zinc in the previous slide. Oil and energy linkages involving Kazakhstan. CPC pipeline is the biggest. There is definitely like a concern of the swapping oil within CPC pipeline. Issue of connectivity. Kazakhstan faces now a lot of issues with the turmoil in the region, thinking about like alternative ways of supplying its oil, bypassing Russia, which is like maybe plugging into the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline. But that's a long-term alternative. But right now it's definitely with structures that it has in place, Russia takes advantage of that. Uzbekistan, here's a little bit more in detail, looking how the supplies go. And again, I want to remind you that those item lines, the one that score highest points on the graph, actually it's the one that I mentioned before. So it cannot be like coincidence, right? It's like those items which I mentioned used in the military equipment, and it's all the same items. Okay. Uzbekistan and Russia related sanctions risks. So there are a number of companies that were already sanctioned by Uzbekistan by U.S. OFAC, Treasury, Department of Treasury. But also Uzbekistan also is making steps to control sanction evasion process. So here I listed some of the steps Uzbekistan is actually trying to undertake. Next slide, please. Kyrgyzstan, closer look at first the supply has dropped to 24 and then rose again. All three graphs showing us again the same type of goods. Kyrgyzstan to UAE. And that's where it gets interesting. Kyrgyzstan, UAE, the supply also for the same type of the goods. Same item lines, which they get from China, they resupply it to UAE. Turkey is also considered as one of the channels, but not big, quite big at the moment. It is used for the payments, processing payment system. It is used for redirecting some of the goods. But since the sanctions were implemented, you see the number of the goods directed through Turkey has dropped. Kyrgyzstan financial and digital channels in sanction evasion. If you remember in the beginning, I mentioned like biggest cases involving cryptocurrency. So that was related to Kyrgyz company, Kyrgyz established shell company with green exchange, crypto exchange. The European Union later included Kyrgyz banks such as Tolobay Bank and Eurasian Savings Bank. Last year in 2024, it was Keremet Bank. So they are supplying, they are providing like a financial payment support. Russia is using smaller countries with smaller banking system to process the payments. Well, Tajikistan is not biggest on the radar. Like I said, it is resupplying the goods. Attention is paid. The warnings are given, but definitely the biggest one is Kyrgyzstan. When you look at the Turkey and Caucasus, originally, like when in our research we looked at past years, 23, 24, we saw that there was a lot of movement of goods through Caucasus, especially cars, gold, even some of the dual purpose goods. But later, our dynamics show that, and we must recognize it, that the supply is dropping. So the like I said, sharp drop in supply from Armenia, sharp drop in supply of CHPL from Turkey to Russia, and drop in supply from Azerbaijan and from Azerbaijan to Russia. Next, please. Same thing is also related to supply of the same type of goods from Turkey to UAE. Like I said, there are some cases, but not quite big in Turkey, with electronics redirected to Russia, but that has taken place earlier in 23, 24. Armenia, also like machine tools, categories that both European Union and US include as like pay attention to is semiconductors, microelectronics. Azerbaijan, logistics. Azerbaijan is the list of the countries here in the picture that actually helps to evade sanctions. But definitely the connectivity, the logistical routes provide opportunity for Russia to exploit that route. But given the political relations between Azerbaijan and Russia, it's a little bit tight right now. Georgia remains to be, it was like 400 something percent increase in re-export of the cars, and continues to be till now. So the cars are received in Georgia and then shipped to Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Armenia, onwards to Russia. So our recommendations at the end of our report, we put always recommendations. And our recommendations to, first of all, it's actually holistic approach. We've been giving it like every year. It doesn't help when you hunt for a fox to burn one hole, right? You have to actually tackle all the holes to trap the animal. So there are some specific areas like for strengthening sanctions enforcement and monitoring, like target systematic facilitators of sanction evasion, and we're talking about secondary sanctions here, like imposing actually on people who help Russia to evade sanctions, finding out those guys and actually exposing them. Improve beneficial ownership transparency. It's been always like opaque ownership I mentioned before. It's been always a big challenge where people try to hide ownership, which you can still figure out, but through a lot of efforts and analytics. Expand maritime enforcement measures. So it's like actually, I wouldn't say it's not being worked on. It's too loose, but actually getting into enforcing, implementing. And I like what's happening right now. For example, like where France is intercepting the ships, actually enforcing the law. Strengthen trade forensics and customs surveillance. The brightest example is what is happening in Eurasian Union. You know, Kazakhstan can do a better job working on actually making customs transparent. Those data is inaccessible. We've been writing to many statistical agencies of many countries, and Central Asia countries are the least responsive in these terms. Others do respond, like even India, but Central Asia is just a lot of work can be done. So use targeted secondary sanctions strategically. So it's like a negotiation process, give and take. You can influence certain behavior, improved behavior by not, let's say, imposing immediately sanctions and prosecuting somebody. Administrative cases I mentioned before. Expand cross-border investigative cooperation. That means like enforcement agencies working together here in US, UK, cooperating. Prosecutors, EU prosecutors. Then also we have a few recommendations for technical monitoring and intelligence capabilities. Establish dedicated maritime surveillance units. It's getting more technical, so that there is no evasion. So there's less of this AIS, automated identification system evasion. Develop integrated trade and maritime data platforms. Prioritize monitoring of key transit corridors. Expand open source intelligence collaboration. So I mean, like civil society should be more active exchanging this information. Because what I've seen is just everybody's trying to whatever they found, it's not coordinated. Whatever they found, it's like all the bits and pieces. You can collect it in different news, in the different reports, but it's not coordinated effort. Increase market transparency and public reporting. Something that what needs to be done also, definitely. So key takeaways. And I'm about to finish here. I'm sorry for a lot of information, but that's very complex information, but that's what it is. In order to get to certain conclusions, you really need to focus on data to make your case valid. So, and here we process the data, and we can be proud that we have something to back up our judgment with. Our key takeaway is institutionalized evasion networks. Russia has developed multi-layered system, combining procurement networks, maritime logistics, financial channels. You've seen it in every country, right? Sure. In every region that I've pointed out. And this is just part of the world. But I focused on a hotbed right now. The triangle is China. It's the next point. China, Turkey, UAE, Central Asia, Southeast Asia. That's the main countries that should be paid attention to. Well, in this year and in coming years as well. Energy sector resilience. Russia's shadow tanker fleet continues enabling oil exports to Asian markets, especially China and India, despite higher cost and enforcement pressures. Financial adaptation. Increased use of crypto exchanges. It's becoming big. Like this, crypto is considered as a way to hide processing of the payments, as well as exchange of the currencies. So they can implement their activities in rubles, right? Supply chain vulnerabilities. I have just showed you a few examples of various countries, how they are resupplying goods, how there's the biggest queues or lines at the customs, like at the borders of Kazakhstan and Russia. So sanctions have raised costs and disrupted individual networks, but not fully cut Russia from the critical technologies export markets. That's unfortunate, but that's still continues to happen. usually sanctions take a longer effect. Definitely, there is a brain drain in Russia. Like over 500,000 specialists left Russia already. Uh, some of the projects are canceled. Uh, Big projects. The GDP is dropping, but sanctions will take effect in future. So future effectiveness depends on stronger international coordination, stricter corporate compliance, and tighter oversight in intermediary jurisdictions. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Well, so just following the question of sanctions.
Sure.
So how would you evaluate the effectiveness lately of Ukrainian actions against Russian oil exports? It's just denying them the ability to take advantage of high oil prices from the Iran wars. So how effective, how would you evaluate the effectiveness of those? Or is it too early?
You mean the influence of drone attacks on the...
St. Petersburg, yes. So drone attacks in St. Petersburg,
Yeah.
is knocking out 40% of Russia's oil and gas export capacity.
Yeah, definitely it has influence and it restructures the supply. Definitely it has effects and it restructures supply chain, Russian supply chain. They have to reconsider what route are they going to. In terms of like influencing the economy, it definitely has effect too. But overall, it's too early to say.
So I guess thanks a lot. First of all, there was a lot of information, but I
Yeah.
feel like one thing I gleaned just from a theme of many slides was a downward trend, at least in 2024, in a lot of Central Asian and South Caucasian like states, with regard to like re-export to Russia.
Yes.
And it seemed like you were saying that that's as a result of enforcement actions, pressure on these states.
Yeah.
Is that, I guess I look at that as a positive trend line, but we see Russia, for example, able still to produce hundreds of thousands of drones a month still. Is that because there's so much trade is being rerouted elsewhere that we're not able to see in data, for example? Is that because Russia's indigenizing a lot of production within its own borders and no longer needs to rely on external trade flows? I mean, that might kind of be outside the scope of this presentation. I'm just trying to reconcile those negative for Russia trends with kind of ongoing defense production within Russia.
That's a very good point. Thank you for raising this point. And it's continuous concern and challenge of coordinating efforts on sanction actually enforcement. It has to do with this because like if the sanctions are enforced in one area, something is happening in another. So coordination is one biggest loophole that's still in the place and enables those things to happen. Sanction evasion. Russia is adapting also short-termistically. They are adapting their approaches. They're becoming sophisticated. I think what's important is also to understand that we need to sort of use modern tools and technologies to be ahead of the this race. And those things, like if I can say, like using AI, for example, in monitoring sanctions, is very important as well. So things that technologically can be done should be done, but it's not at the moment. I don't feel like it's effectively is done. So, but definitely Russian economy is not is draining, and they are still they started using all spare parts right now. It's not like that. They're getting everything. Yes, as I told you, as I showed in my presentation, they're getting supply, but that's not enough to shoot millions of drones every day, which they do. I'm exaggerating, but they do shoot a lot towards Ukraine, right? So Russian economy is draining definitely. So it's important to like in our recommendations to focus on the basically key steps that would make sanctions work. And first one is integration, working together, sharing information, uh, like using technologies to follow the sanctions, and enforcement. So that are the three main areas.
Girls first. Sorry. Can I ask what is like your personal motivation in the work you're doing, and what is your personal goal you are like you seek to achieve in this direction?
Well, I mean, so we're the civil society, and civil society, like one of the biggest things is the transparency, and it's important for us to understand what's going on, to find out the true picture. So that's like not only reading separate articles here and there, but actually to make a connection. So, and that's my personal motivation. Like I've done that in my life. Like, and I'm worked in the civil society. I worked in elections for many years. So that's why it's exciting and fascinating right now to provide a tool for actually civil society to know the truth and to influence it.
You mean civil society
Worldwide,
Russian?
worldwide civil society, because we have a lot of interested parties from all around the world reaching out to us and getting information.
Your perfect final goal with this, what you're doing, for this research, so this findings?
Information sharing. That's the important part. Like I said, the information sharing, the transparency. We want to understand the truth.
I was going to ask you about the Eurasian Economic Union.
Yes.
You touched on that. What is your perspective on the Eurasian Economic Union? Is it being used as a way to help Russia avoid the sanctions with member countries? And is it a positive vehicle for business, or is it being used to help, subvert the international law and the sanctions?
Good question. Thank you for raising that. And yes, there are a number of structures that Kazakhstan, for example, is a part of, like Eurasian Union, CSTO, Shanghai Cooperating Organization, and I mean Turkic organization right now. So I would say that in terms of in this particular work, in sanctions, and this is providing an opportunity for only isolated part of the group to take advantage of, like Russia using exploiting Eurasian Union to supply to divert all the channels without records.
Right.
We don't know all. We don't have person at the border actually looking at the trucks and checking what's in the trucks, right? But they do have like this agreement, internal agreement, internal regulations, which actually make procedures, custom clearance procedures, easier within the Eurasian Union. So it definitely benefits just a certain part of the groups like Russia, for example.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a very complex system, the way you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But that's not all planned. That kind of market forces falling into place.
That's a philosophical question.
Yeah, and planning on top of that. I don't know, how would you see that? What is planned?
It's very interesting. It's maybe chaotic. Like when somebody's trying to do something chaotically in the war times, that can happen. But as you more get into the figures, you realize there is something behind. There is like a plan, certain plan. Like you, there is something like next might come up next. There are certain trends. We observe sanction evasion for 3-4 years now, and we can already start figuring out the trends, like where it's going to be next, judging by the figures, judging by the performance what they did before. But again, that also depends on how strategy in addressing enforcement is. So if enforcement will start to be addressed from all the corners, how will it behave? It's also not clear. Yes,
Sir, one more thing.
sure.
How do you find this latest initiative of Trump, this council? Don't you see this can be used as instrument to avoid sanctions or to somehow manipulate the sanctions by Russia?
No, I don't think that the current administration is actually like giving up on sanctions, which, I mean, one might think, because sanctions are lifted from there, from here, like I mentioned also, but they are lifted temporarily. And the sanctions are already in process, and they have already created certain damage to the Russian system, which actually will show in the years to come. And I don't see any perspective of sanctions being like literally forgotten and forgiven. No, I think it will be more sophisticated. I just mentioned it, more technologies applied, more digital approach to actually monitoring sanctions.
I mean, like political, like can it be political instruments that frozen assets can be somehow released later through the instrument of this peace council, which kind of alternative of the United Union. But
That's yeah. I mean, this is not really my focus of the research, but I mean, if like,
no, your opinion. I mean, if you work on this topic, your
yeah, hard to say. Hard to say at this point. I mean, everything can be used. Everything is possible, like a negotiation process. First of all, I mean, whatever is in the interest of America, it should be done first. So that's how things should be valued here, right?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot for this talk. I mean, I learned a lot about how a lot of the dual-use tech is being trafficked through Central Asia. I wasn't aware of that. With the trafficking that is taking place, you talk about the need for better enforcement on the for the sanctions. How is that done, especially if like the country is either willingly turning a blind eye or fully supporting, you know, the trafficking of that dual-use tech? Like, is this political coercion that needs to be put on the countries themselves? Even if the country is like, okay, yes, we'll stop the trafficking of these technologies. You talked about how these companies will just like appear for a day and then disappear. And
Yeah, shell companies. Yeah.
Like, yeah. Even if Kyrgyzstan was like, yeah, we want to solve this problem, right? And they completely turn around and they're trying to enforce it. Like, how? Like, can they? Like, is this? I don't understand how any of this works necessarily, like the nitty gritty of it. But is it easy enough that some actors in this space could just continue to traffic through however much they wanted to?
Yeah, especially in the highly controlled environments. It's easy to control. Like in Kyrgyzstan, in Kazakhstan, it's definitely a very much centralized system.
Okay.
And we cannot say that the fly will fly by without system knowing it.
Okay.
The rest is just not true. So while this centralized system is in place, it can be very much utilized in cooperation with the Western enforcement agencies to actually produce some, to deliver, to produce some results. Well, then should be demand from Western side also.
Yeah.
Like you guys have to show what you've done.
Is it just U.S. State Department?
OFAC, U.S. State Department, EU, they have a lot of structures that follow this. UK, that's outside of EU.
But is the ball being dropped? Because I mean, those charts, so many of those charts, especially with Central Asian states, saw that negative downward trend line. In many of those countries, like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, they have positive relationships with the United States. They view the United States.
Re-engaging again now back with Central Asia.
So
And
are they basically stopping trucks and looking at like bills of sale and saying, wow, these
they
microelectronics
are,
are from Texas Instruments. You can't go into Russia. Sorry, you got to turn around. Is that
it's not done on a systematic basis,
okay?
but it's already being implemented. It started being implemented, but not on systematic basis. A lot of corruption. You should understand. It's also
Sure,
like
yeah.
so, you have to like approach it systematically, like change the system, train people actually to do that. There's nobody like professionally who can follow that. I mean, they can just fool anybody there. Like this is a, not microprocessor, so things like that. Uh, so yeah, it's like effort should be done at several levels, like education, enforcement, like on job training, basically.
All right, thank you very much. I think it's time for a drink.
Thank you.